Who have we got for you today? Aldin Wilson, founder of Trapar, is going to tell us about his platform that he's been working on for the last couple of years. We then have Ken Hoskins, project director from Frisco Projects. And we'll be touch and go with Chris Reed, the founder of, oh no, Chris is here, so that's great. The founder of ProxiSmart, here in plenty of time. I know he just got off a train up to the north of Scotland, so great he could make it along. So we might start with Aldin, who's going to tell us a little bit about, and again, sorry, like our last panel presentation, we'll have about 10 minutes from each of our presenters telling us about who they are and what they do, and what they'd like from the audience. And then we'll close off with probably a brief Q&A. And that will almost take us through to the end of the session today. So thanks for hanging around. But next up, we have Aldin. Aldin, if you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you very much.
Okay, feel free to share your screen when you can. And it's up.
Hello, everyone. I'm Aldin, the founder of Trapar. The idea of Trapar came about while I was in the British Army. I was a qualified transport manager, booking and arranging transport for my unit. I was also the petroleum oils and lubricant manager in charge of two 50,000 liters of diesel pumps. Once I had to arrange 13 coaches for 600 soldiers, including military vehicles and civilian vehicles. I have also driven both passengers and goods vehicles of various sizes. It was no different for private companies. Through agencies, I've driven for Royal Mail, Amazon, Pollock, Palletways, and even delivered fuel to petrol stations. I have driven golfers, festival goers, wedding guests, football fans, stags, and endos. I noticed two things. They use different systems to arrange transport, manage maintenance, and communication between the driver and the transport department was poor. I also noticed most of the vehicles was completing return journeys empty. Trapar allows you to plan, book, and pay for different types of transport and personalized hires all in one app. Oftentimes, group travelers tend to use their private cars rather than traveling together. The process to book a coach operator is complex, frustrating, and a waste of time. You Google coach operator in London and get 10 or more choices, visit their website, call them to give information about your trip, obtain a quote, add to a spreadsheet, make a decision where to put your money, and payments are mostly done via bank transfer or cash. All trends indicate that we will need to reduce the number of cars on our roads. We need a solution that makes this transition as simple and easy as possible. This is the starting point. As we get back to in-person togetherness post-pandemic, we want to gather with friends and family, but are also more mindful of our environmental impact. Trapar can help. Trapar's first commercial product will be a digital channel that enables users to plan, book, and pay for a coach and minibus hire. You type in your details and preference once in our journey planner. We collect the requests, we present it to operators in the area. Operators put forward quotes. We show you this set of quotes and offers from which you can then judge, choose, and pay for the booking through our platform. We will operate a model similar to National Express, where operators will use their fleets of vehicles to fulfill these journeys. My team is made up of Stephen and Pierre, who works on sales and business development, Dacio, head of design and product, Jordan, head of product development, Radu, backend engineer, and Norlin, business marketing. We have also been contacted by Festival Republic for an event in Crystal Palace. Wireless 2021, 100 double-decker buses from Crystal Palace Park Road to Brixton Station for 3 days. We have also been approached by business looking to hire electric coaches for COP26. Some of our current customers are schools, local authorities, wedding organizers, and sports funds. Example, 3 coaches from Marlborough Primary in London to Trapar for 150 passengers, 1 coach from Edinburgh to Portsmouth for an Indian wedding for 35 passengers, 1 coach from Kensington and Chelsea Town Hall to a hotel in Portland Place, London for 48 passengers, and 1 coach from a church in Sheffield for a hotel in Sheffield for a wedding. That's for 50 passengers. Doing this, customers have expressed some of their pain points. These include using private cars, researching operators, issues with cash and bank transfer. Everyone will agree with me. They have either seen or heard in the news about driver shortage or delivery backlog. Over the recent weeks, I have been approached by parcel delivery managers and local food ordering startups struggling to access drivers. These startups are challenging the big three platforms, who takes up to 30% of their restaurant sales. We have decided to launch Trapar's second commercial product, a digital driver agency that enables users to hire riders and drivers. Individuals, customers, and businesses will be able to hire a rider or driver to collect and deliver food, grocery, home and garden from their favorite restaurant, cafe, supermarket, retail store, and more. Trapar will then integrate with third parties to add other transport solutions, such as public transport, car schemes, cycle hire, and other modes of transport. When I started Trapar, my goal was to automate, optimize, and enable efficient logistics, enabling customers to plan, book, and pay for greener transport, shared transport. End of my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Aldin. That was good. I didn't know about your new direction you were heading in, or your additional service. That's fantastic, and seems like a logical progression.
That happened since MSIP, yes.
Oh, okay. So really new. So yeah, I might have a few more questions about that shortly, but yeah, we'll save that for the Q&A. But let's move on now to Ken Hoskins.
Hi, Dan.
Welcome, Ken. Good to have you here.
Yeah, just going to share my screen. We just need.
Yep, that's good.
I'll just take myself off. All right then. Okay. Yeah. So thanks, Dan, for that introduction and the opportunity to present today. Frisco Projects has developed a way for communities to become healthier, produce fewer carbon dioxide emissions, and providing local employment. We seek funding to launch the Frisco e-bikes and Frisco solar docks in 2022, providing an equitable return for investors, plus benefits sponsors, employers, and users with a social and environmental conscience. So let's turn on a second. Okay, moving on. A few years ago, I started researching my Australian family tree. Be interested to know this, Dan. Yep, I am actually Australian. I have a passport to prove it. It left Oz as a toddler, never to pick up the Aussie twang. I was told that our ancestors went out to Australia of their own accord, but to my mum's surprise, I found that my fourth great-grandfather, Moses was sent out at His Majesty's pleasure, arriving at the beginning of the 19th century. The Old Bailey trial records that Moses was found guilty in 1813, aged 21, and transported for life for allegedly stealing £7, which was a phenomenal amount of money then. It was his word against a gentleman's word. Moses said the gentleman was intoxicated at the time. Once in Australia, Moses was given a second chance and received his conditional pardon and presented with a silver medal for his part in apprehending a bushranger, later becoming an alderman in Sydney. Some turnaround. So what has Moses got to do with our offering? It is that we also believe in giving ex-offenders a second chance. We recognise the importance of the 3 Ps: profit, people, and the planet. We don't see separation between business, social, and the environment. Prioritising local employment, including ex-offenders, to help them get their lives back on track, and provision of adaptive tooling for people with disabilities. We want everyone to be included in delivering our mission of a cleaner planet, allowing people to live healthier lives, part of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We're all impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, travel congestion, emissions, and street clutter from doctors' bike hire schemes. Also, many challenges faced by employees, including provision of parking for employees and associated business rates, plus water and sewage rates. Also, the workplace parking levy already in place in some UK cities, such as Nottingham. We have a great business offering of e-bikes powered by the sun. The Frisco e-bikes and Frisco Solar Docks combine the use of solar power to wirelessly recharge an e-bike at a docking station with solar panels. Importantly, solar panel output in winter from our docks would exceed demand even in Aberdeen. So no need to connect to the grid with its unique standalone design, saving time and money installing. Our e-bikes and docks are perfect for leasing by employers, whether they are businesses, councils, or other organisations such as universities and the NHS. With an off-the-shelf ecosystem solution with minimum infrastructure and management required. Our e-bikes are ideal for students, commuters, tourists and shoppers to hire with easy 24/7 secure access. There are many employers' benefits by leasing our e-bikes and docks, including reduced expenditure for parking, enhanced green credentials, supporting corporate social responsibilities. Similarly, there are many users' benefits with acquiring our e-bikes, including saves money, provides a safe and secure transport as an alternative to using public transport impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, improves well-being. So, I'm Ken Hoskins, and with Janet Hoskins, both directors and co-founders of Frisco projects based in Aberdeen, a micro business with expertise and experience. We've built and continue to build a team with specialists to deliver, supported by advisors in various organisations. Frisco Projects is unique as a Scottish original equipment manufacturer with these innovative products and service offering. We're progressing the completion of the prototype designs, having previously worked with universities and others. Currently working on a mini project with an academic team at the University of Aberdeen. Various organisations have provided funding or support, and sometimes both. Having been part of the executive springboard cohort run by Aberdeen and Crampton Chamber of Commerce in 2017, we were supported and encouraged in the early stages of our business. Business Gateway have supported us through our journey, and this year have granted and commenced support as part of their business growth service. We were supported by Opportunity Northeast as part of the One Digital Accelerator program, along with support from Elevator in Aberdeen as part of their Accelerator program. After this, we joined the Michelin and Scotland Innovation Park, or the MSIP Accelerator program in Dundee, the first cohort, managed by Elevator and funded by Scottish Enterprise, which also part-funded the innovation project at that stage. The Intellectual Property Office part-funded the IP audit, completed by patent attorneys Marks and Clark, based in Aberdeen, that we used. And the Energy Technology Partnership have part-funded a mini project with an academic team at the University of Aberdeen, which we're on with. So what's next? Our focus is on securing further funding, including from angel investors for seed funding, plus the continued discussions with Scottish Enterprise Growth Investments. Also to seek agreements with sponsors, continue building the team, and prepare for COP26 at MSIP's facilities in Dundee. So thanks for the opportunity to present to you today. If you are an angel investor who would like to invest in sustainable transport and green energy, do contact us. Or you are a Scottish bike frame fabricator, we'd welcome the opportunity to have a chat. Whatever your interest, in the Frisco e-bikes and Frisco Solar Docks. We would love to continue a conversation with you after today. Do have a look at our website listed here and drop me an email to the address shown. Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
Fantastic, Ken. Thanks a lot for that brief overview. And yeah, having spoken to Ken multiple times before, I know that was definitely a brief overview. There's a lot of detail to the Frisco solution, both the docking stations and the bikes themselves. So definitely a really an interesting approach. Again, just a reminder, yeah, if you have any questions for our speakers, put them in the chat window so we can save them up for the end. So next up, our final speaker for the afternoon is Chris Reed from ProxiSmart. Chris, glad to see you could make it.
Absolutely.
How's the north of Scotland?
It's beautiful and sunny, actually. We've got here, but I have to say I've ran here from the train station, and I've noticed there's no defibrillator in the room. So if I drop down dead, please ring my wife and tell her the insurance documents are in the kitchen drawer.
Great.
Okay.
Well, we love your dedication. So hopefully you can pull off a presentation of some kind. I'm assuming you'll be using slides.
Yes, I've decided to opt for a safer option rather than go down the video route. But anyway, here we go. So yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Chris Reed. I'm the founder of ProxiSmart Limited. That's me in the corner. No, not the one in the red dress, the other one. And we've got a couple of flagship solutions called Parking Perks and Travel Perks, which I'm going to talk about. We're all about three key objectives. We want to uplift the local economy, particularly in a post-COVID world. So we're talking about towns and city centres struggling to get their local economy back on track, and all about delivering an environmentally sustainable future, as well as supporting active travel. I'm going to talk about the solutions in a second. You may have noticed, the eagle-eyed amongst you, that we are a dragon-backed business. I went on the programme a couple of years ago and managed to get a Dragon to back us. She's still very much heavily involved. If you want to see probably the sweatiest man that's ever been on Dragon's Den, then you can find that on YouTube somewhere, although I wouldn't recommend it. Let's move on. Okay. So we've created something we kind of class as a fairly disruptive model for the parking, public transport, and active travel sectors. We've created basically a loyalty solution which rewards consumer spending in the high street, in the local town and city centres, with a credit, perks we call it, that you can use to then pay for your public transport or your parking or your active travel, like e-bike hire, e-vehicle recharging, etc. And it's a disruptive model because it changes who pays for those elements from the consumer to merchants. And it does that in exchange for uplifting the spend in those merchant offline stores particularly. So merchants create basically rewards and offers based upon a minimum spend. Consumers, when they make a purchase of goods or services, they will earn a perks, the reward element of that offer, and that's credited to their accounts, and they can then use that perks to pay for, like I say, either parking, or in the case of parking perks, or public transport and active travel elements in the case of travel perks. Very importantly, any unspent perks can be retained and used on their next visit. So it's all about promoting repeat customer and location loyalty. So I want to sort of explain how it works for consumers next. So it's a free to download app. Consumers will download and register their account. As part of that registration, they will register their personal debit and credit cards. I'll explain why in a second. And they will also be allocated or pick up from a collection point there. At the moment, it's a physical payment card, a Perks payment card. I hope you can see my equivalent there on screen with my video. So it's a MasterCard approved debit card, and that is then activated and linked to their user account. They then go shopping, and the app will tell them which businesses in the location are participating in the scheme, where they can earn perks, and they pay for their goods or services as normal with their registered debit or credit cards. So there's no change of behavior at the till, either for the consumer or, importantly, for the merchant staff. They just take payment as normal at the till, and our system picks up that transaction in the background through the MasterCard Visa platform. We validate the spend and basically ascertain whether or not it's good enough to earn any perks. And we notify the consumer in real time of the perks they've earned. And that's immediately added to their account and is immediately available on their Parking Perks payment card for them to use to pay for parking, like I say, in the case of Parking Perks, or indeed public transport or other options like e-bike hire, etc. And that element, that sort of cyclical nature of their town centre visit is kind of bookended by them paying for their transport. So it's a very, very powerful sort of loyalty system. It's all about supporting the local economy, supporting the high street, but the reward is kind of unique. It's rewarding people with either free parking or free public transport. So how do we align that to the green agenda? Well, in the case of parking perks, we can restrict the redemption of perks to specific car parks. I'm sorry, in the top right, by the way, specific car parks. So that could be either edge of town or out of town parking to encourage and incentivize park and ride type schemes or park and stride type schemes, which I see a term bandied around these days. The reduction of the cost of public transport is an incentivization in itself. And very importantly, if we move to the left there, what we're actually doing with park perks in particular is we are collecting incredibly powerful data. We're basically mapping the consumer's journey from where they live to where they park, to which merchants they're engaging with, to how much they're spending and on what. So we're working out who's coming into the town centre, when they're coming in, but most importantly, why they're coming in. It's much more granular than, say, footfall cameras, which just tell you movement. Ours, we're actually tracking spending. So we know why people are spending, and it's not just limited to retail, it's across any type of town centre businesses. And indeed, in our live locations, we do have even professional services like lawyers and accountants giving away perks as part of people attending appointments. So it can be for the hospitality sector, for health and beauty, for retail, anything and everything that a town centre provides. So very importantly, like I said, that data tells us why people are coming into the town centre, and aggregated and anonymized, that gives us real smart city style insight and analysis on why that town centre is being used, when, where, and by whom. Other elements to the solution, we're expanding our sort of operator range to include things like e-bike and e-carriage hire options, and as well as e-charging. So with electric vehicles, it's not just about parking your car, it's about parking and charging. And we've already seen some schemes around the country where that's going to be rolled into one payment, if you like. So you park up, you charge your car, and you pay for parking at the same time. So all of those elements we could be paying for by perks. And that perks, remember, is linked to direct spending in that local economy. So we're uplifting the local economy, but incentivizing greener travel choices. Hope that all makes sense. Now, in terms of traction, we're live in a couple of places where we're still early doors. COVID had a bit of an impact on our rollout plans, because obviously this is all linked to the high street, and the high street was closed for 16 months basically. So we were a little bit behind to where we anticipated to be, but we're now live in a couple of locations. Went live in Kendal last week, for instance. And that's with parking perks. With travel perks, we are now part of the successful High Trans project as part of the Mass Scotland project there. So travel perks will be rolled out across the Highlands and Islands of Scotland, where I am right now. So we're meeting with a few stakeholders this evening. So the idea is that we're incentivizing greater use of public transport by reducing the cost, but linking that to the spend in the town centres. And our initial targets are places like Inverness, Elgin, and Nairn, etc. So a great project to be involved in, hopefully going live later this year, early new year. So other thing to mention, we have now over sort of 80 national brands where you can earn your perks. So that gives us an anchor point in any real sort of high street or town centre location across the country. And then what we typically do is we work in partnership with the local business improvement district to try and onboard as many local independent merchants. So we're spreading the benefit of the solution into that sort of mix of merchants, both national and independent. And you'll hopefully notice there on the right, we're also now in partnership with Ringo. Ringo is the UK's largest cashless parking provider. They have a real estate of around about 150 local authorities who use their software. That covers around 470 odd towns and cities, and they've got 18 million users. So our plans and hopes are early next year, we start to roll out a bit more nationally, and perks becomes a bit of a high street thing across the whole country, with the opportunity to hopefully take it further. But it's all about that objective of learning about private car users and then incentivizing them to switch at least some of their private car journeys onto public transport or other travel active type schemes. So that's a brief one from me. I hope that's given you a little bit of a flavor for what it's all about. My email's at the bottom there, chris.reed@proxysmart.co.uk. More than happy to take any queries or questions if that's a part of the schedule, Dan, but it's back over to you. Shall I stop sharing?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And apologies for the misspelling. So yeah, definitely got questions for yourself. We might jump back if Aldin and Ken can come back online there. Aldin, I had some initial questions for you really around this new digital driver agency. Maybe if you could just take a couple of minutes and explain where that fits in and kind of how you identified the need again. You mentioned, clearly there's a shortage of drivers, but it sounds like you might have spotted sort of a misconnection there or a specific opportunity.
Yes, so the idea came about, as I said, while I was in the Army. And for the driver, as I said, I used to drive for digital drivers agency here in Edinburgh. And you'll basically get like a last minute weekends job, especially Christmas when the delivery surged. And so, yeah, that's where the knowledge came from. And then I been speaking to guys who are basically building up like Secret Takeaways, new startup here in Edinburgh, and other basically backends. But as you know, Just Eat and Deliveroo, the other big platforms out there, are taking big percentage. So these platforms are planning to take like 10%, 6%. The restaurants are really interested in them. So I was planning from the side of the coach, where basically the drivers will enroll and the coach, obviously they have the license, they're enrolled. I'll be able to obviously make them flexible between companies, and then from there, even the HGV drivers. But being approached by these companies now, I have to take the initiative to basically do it as well for the regular riders and cyclists or car drivers here in Edinburgh.
Okay, yeah. So it seems like, both these ideas seem simple. Is there, why is it not been done before? Is there a lot of competitors out there? Yeah, I guess sorry, I'm asking multiple questions at once, but hopefully you understand sort of what I'm trying to understand, spot here. What is the sort of unique angle you're taking that might differentiate you from the other platforms that might seem similar?
Yeah, most of them is silos. So when you look at Uber, obviously they have their own set of drivers. Just Eat, it's basically a monopoly. They will pay like up to 16 hours on drivers there. Then obviously you have the smaller companies who obviously struggle to find drivers because everyone is on Just Eat. But then when you look at Just Eat, as you can see, Uber went to court the other day. Obviously they run obviously the drivers' wellness and all of that, and the problems obviously faced with drivers. So with that, obviously been driving for agencies. I know obviously the agency have a better they offer more perks in terms of pensions and stuff like that, which obviously Uber doesn't offer at the moment on those type of platforms. So that's where the knowledge came from. And then I said, I'll take this to the market, but I was going to take it later. But then I realized there's a demand now because it's in the news and everything. And I just said, I'll just take it forward.
Great, fantastic. So what are the next steps there? So your platform is live and operational now. People can go onto your website and basically request the transportation options?
Yes, so currently they can go and request for coaches and minibus. In terms of the cyclists and drivers, that will be launched in the next couple of weeks with these new partners that I've been speaking to. And we're doing basically bootstrapping. So it's not a fully automated process as yet. We're bootstrapping with our own funds and grants as we go along. And so it will maybe take a bit of time before we obviously raise some investment.
Okay, fantastic. We'll wait and see if there's any more questions come in through the chat. But I wanted to move on to Ken a little. Ken next to sort of, it occurred to me, Ken, that the solar powered independent nature of your docking stations would be fantastic for sort of tourism locations out in different remote areas. Is that a niche that you're targeting, or what are sort of the locations you're targeting that sort of lend themselves best to your solution?
It's a mixture of the cityscapes, in car parks, businesses' car parks, where they don't have to lay any cables to connect up to recharge the bikes. So our system is completely standalone, and it is also ideal for the kind of remote locations, in tourist destinations, where people can pick up a bike and know that it's fully charged. So it is flexible in that regard. We do have the option actually to export the excess energy because we produce more than we need. And so we're looking at exploring exporting green energy back to the grid if it's worth connecting to the grid, or even actually through electrolysis generating hydrogen, which could then be used for buses and cars running on hydrogen. So that's an offshoot. It wasn't what we initially started off with, but it's something that's come out as and that came up actually through discussions with ETP, because they were very keen on the hydrogen side of things, and that came out of it. also the NSIP program as a potential offshoot.
Okay, fantastic. It sounds like you've had a lot of experience engaging the sort of Scottish research institutions and getting support from there. I mean, is there any, to other SMEs out there that may not have engaged the universities in Scotland? Is there any kind of advice you can potentially give? Any avenues that are worth pursuing, or anything maybe you would have done differently?
Yeah, I've worked, with the University of Aberdeen and the University of Strathclyde at different stages on the project, and there's actually, bouncing around ideas and realizing that certain things aren't feasible. So that was really good. So that was, the University of Aberdeen was a direct approach with their research and innovation arm of the university, and that's working with second year students. With Strathclyde, it was the fourth year engineering students, taking it a bit further. So, it's reaching out to the universities, connections with this, that was who introduced me to University of Strathclyde. Strangely enough, the one at Aberdeen University was an Offshore Europe event that I attended, business breakfast, and at the table was somebody from the university, told them about one of our innovation ideas, and the connection was made.
You definitely don't expect to see a bike developer at an Offshore Europe event. So interesting connection there.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. So you didn't know, thinking through that, you didn't know which research you needed to engage. You sort of just approached the university as a whole and then worked out who the best person was to work with.
Yeah, so with the university, there was contact with the School of Engineering at Aberdeen, University of Aberdeen. And initially the first group of students was looking at the concept. We saw that the concept was it was a business case, and we saw it as a viable proposition. Next was a concept design, and then the University of Strathclyde was doing the prototype designs, early stage, and now we're working with the University of Aberdeen academic team. So this is lecturers and readers to take forward the detailed design, address some of the technical challenges that we had around the wireless connection. For recharging the bike, it's one of our USPs, and so that's been encouraging. I appreciate on our slides we didn't show any pictures of what we're doing. We're just at that stage in terms of protecting our IP.
You don't want to give it all away.
Yeah.
So it sounded like you're basically in a fundraising mode next going forward. Is that right?
Yeah. Seed funding is the key thing.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, if there's anyone out there with deep pockets, reach out to Ken. Moving on to Chris. Chris, you can't get away with not receiving a Dragon's Den question, considering.
Yeah, go on then.
No, yeah. Let's see. I'm intrigued by one thing in particular. I mean, it'd be good to get some examples of what kind of value beyond a little bit of cash, what kind of value add have you received from having a Dragon on board? I'm always intrigued by what difference they actually made. Is it sort of facilitation of introductions? Does it open doors that you otherwise may not have been able to open? What has been your experience?
Yeah, I think you've summed it up pretty well there. I mean, it's a bit of cash, obviously, that was nice. But primarily it's about their black book and what they can do. It lifted the PR of the business. They reckon that appearing on the Den is worth about £1 million worth of PR because of the exposure you get. Now you can't buy that. Now a lot of people go on the Den for that reason only. They're not looking for investment. I was looking for investment because I'd ran out of cash. So yeah, but that PR opportunity is massive. It massively raised the profile of the business. It got us introductions into key decision makers that we wouldn't have had. And Jenny herself is very much involved. She's always there on the end of a phone if I need her. A great sounding board for the business. And like I say, she can open doors. So yes, it's the black book mainly you're after, and that sort of PR and exposure that it brings you. So yeah, a positive experience for me. I think it's brutal. I mean, if you do watch me on there, like I said before, I'm the sweatiest guy that's ever been on there. I was kicked around for 2 hours and a bit, and what you see on TV is like 8 or 9 minutes. And there's no breaks. There's no, under the studio lights, and you've got 5 of the toughest business brains going at you, prodding you to see how you react, and asking you all sorts of questions about your business, your model, all sorts of stuff. Deborah Meaden is the toughest woman I've ever met in terms of that. She gave me a proper kicking. So you're always worried about how the edit kind of comes out. Fortunately for me, it was Jenny's last program, and I think they were a little bit soft on me, to be fair. So it wasn't too bad an experience in the end, but you know, scary all the same.
Great. So you'd highly recommend it to any entrepreneur that.
No, not at all. Don't do it. Absolutely not.
Great. So getting down to the point of your these are new products. Is Travel Perks is relatively new, is that right?
Yeah. So Travel Perks is always kind of our longer term mission, but Parking Perks is where we were getting the most traction. Obviously, parking is a very emotive subject. Up and down the country, most local authorities are constantly answering the call from local businesses to make parking free, which is a challenge in itself. What we've come up with a way of doing is actually linking free parking to spending in the high street. So it's exactly what the businesses want, but you only get to park for free if people spend a certain amount in the high street. And that's different. And the way we change the model means that the local authority doesn't lose the revenue. So it's a way of introducing free parking, but without making it free, and the local authority still retains their revenues. So it's a powerful model, particularly in a post-COVID type scenario. But longer term, Travel Perks is always our mission objective kind of thing, because of the environmental angle, because most local authorities, I think it's about 78-80%, have now signed up to carbon neutral targets for 2030. And that's a big challenge for them. They need to get private cars out of city centres. So how do you do that? How do you make that behavioural change kind of step for people who love the convenience of parking right next to where they want to shop? So there's a challenge there. And so what we've introduced is a financial reward to people for supporting the high street, but encouraging them to think about how many private car journeys they do, and introduce other options like the active travel, like the e-carriage stuff, where you're getting your shopping taken to your car at edge of town car parks and things like that. So we're trying to incentivize that behavioural change to lead to longer term carbon neutrality. So that's what the business was always all about. Parking Perks was kind of our way to kick down the door.
Yeah, I think in previous conversations we've had, some people saw Parking Perks as incentivizing parking, which is what you're trying to actually deter. But now I'm realizing, listening to you describe it, you're basically disincentivizing people abusing the free parking. You have to be there for a real reason to receive that benefit.
The most important thing about Parking Perks is the data we collect. We're learning about private car users and why they're coming into town centres, when they're coming in, and what they're spending their money on. Now, that's incredibly powerful and important data. If you want to repurpose your high street, you want to know why people come in and what they're using it for. If you want to introduce, travel corridors and policy around public transport and private cars and parking, you've got to know where people are coming from, what they're spending their money, what they're doing when they get there. So the Parking Perks angle was always all about learning about private car users and then using that data to influence and change their behavior potentially to other options, at least for some of their journeys. So even if you've got somebody, and we can monitor a private car user over a period of say 6 months, introduce something that incentivizes them to change that and see what impact that has. And that's really what it's about. But the double whammy of our solutions is we're supporting the local economy. So those businesses that have been kicked for the last 16 months in town centres on the high street, we're creating a way to incentivize spending in those stores and businesses, and giving people a way to get in and out of the city a bit more efficiently and more cheaply, which will hopefully result in change.
Great. Well, I'll be looking forward to seeing the impact and the outcomes from the project in the High Trans region. So especially looking forward to that. I do have more questions, but I'm very conscious of time. It's been a long afternoon, so we might move along. Thank you very much, Aldin, Ken, and Chris, for coming along this afternoon. Great you could make it. Really appreciate you being here.